Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This week, I have Tim with us. I'm super excited to introduce him to you guys and have him share with you who he is, what he's all about, and who he typically helps. And he's got some solid gems that he's going to share with us. So, without further ado, Tim, take a second to say hello to me, or not to me, to the audience. Go ahead.
Hey, everybody. Good to be with you today. I'm jacked up for 2021.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the Tony Shap Show. We'll just dive right in. So, what's your one word open that you could use to describe how you're feeling right now as we're getting started?
I'm excited.
Perfect. Excellent. So, as our listeners are listening to this, whether it's on a podcast, they're driving or listening to this working out, or they're watching this on YouTube, um, I want them to really get a good chance to understand who you are, who you invest in, and all that good stuff. So, share with us about your business, how you got started, the whole background, and then where you are at now and your vision for the future.
Sure, Tony. Thanks. I appreciate the opportunity to be on today and hopefully share a few tips and tricks here. I know I'm always in continuous learner mode myself, so I'm hopeful that I can be part of that process for the listeners today. I started my career back in the 1980s in public accounting, so I was part of that for, like I said, 15 years. I was on the management consulting side, solving a lot of problems, saw a lot of different types of businesses that I might ultimately want to be part of. I then transitioned to about 10 to 12 years of running tech companies. So I was a CEO at a software company for a couple of years, and then a co-founder and CEO of a scientific instrument company here in the Great Plains of Illinois. That company, that latter company had a very good run for about 7 or 8 years, and we were acquired by Sony. And so now I'm kind of in the third chapter of what I'm doing, and that's called Serra Ventures. Started back in the 2008, 2009 era. Started really as a consulting firm, working with startups to help them with capital raising, strategy. How do you go to market? How do you take a piece of technology out of the laboratory and commercialize it, create a useful product? That very quickly morphed into needing to get capital into the hands of those companies. And so we created our first venture fund. It was really more of a super angel fund. Over time, we've now put together a series of funds, about 100 million in assets under management today. We have a team of all former entrepreneurs. There's 4 of us that are managing partners here at the firm, 3 of us in Illinois, 1 of us in San Diego, California, venture partner in Chicago, venture partner in Vegas, another venture partner here in Illinois. So a team of former entrepreneurs that are bringing hopefully insight and wisdom from our 30 plus year careers to the folks that we're providing capital. So today we're writing checks into early stage companies, typically what I would characterize as a seed plus or a series A round as a typical entry point. We're often writing, a check maybe on the low end, 250,000, on the high end, maybe $1 million. And then reserving some capital for follow-on funding rounds. Invariably, a lot of these companies are going to need funding, in a year and a half or 2 as well, and on down the road. So that's really what we're about, is both providing capital, but also coming alongside as a coach and as a mentor to hopefully bring some of that gray hair wisdom that you can see I've got plenty of here to our portfolio companies.
Excellent. Do you mind mentioning a couple notable investments that you've made that you want to speak to?
Yeah, we tend to fly a bit under the radar screen. So a lot of the companies that we're investing in may not be household names per se. We had a great company in Chicago a number of years ago called Clearstream. Clearstream was a technology that could understand the context in which a video ad was running on the internet. So a lot of value there for potential advertisers. That was sold to a company called Engine Group. And Engine Group today is about a 500 million in revenue entity. So that was a great success for us. A more recent one is a company called iCyt, based in San Diego. iCyt is providing sort of the latest suite of internet tools to companies like plumbers and lawn maintenance folks that might not otherwise have the opportunity to build a great web presence and then have the tools necessary for scheduling and, billing and collections and so forth. So GoSite is providing really an elegant solution. Just closed a funding round to put them, well on the track to build a very successful and sustainable business. So those are a couple of examples. We have about 80 companies that we've invested in over time.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing that with us. Now let's talk about recent wins. So if you could share with the audience, what's a recent win that you've experienced or you put on the board, so to speak, that's important to you in business context, and what did you learn from it, Tim?
Yeah, a win for us, Tony. We invested in a company based here in Illinois a few years ago called Abbvie. Abbvie was a team of PhDs that approached us with a pretty interesting little company. Well, it wasn't a company at the time. They had built an application to determine the amount of rain that fell on a particular piece of ground, but it was all digital, right? So they tapped into weather databases and so forth and could figure out, how much rain fell on my lawn, even though there was no physical device on my lawn. So it's kind of it looked like an interesting science project to us, but we began to work with that team and ultimately provided funding for them over a series of a couple of years, brought in some other parties. And that firm recently exited to a company called Nutrien that bought them for, I think, $63 million. So here was a team that was essentially running a science project, in my estimation, that we were able to help come alongside, put some coaching into the equation, and create a real company with a real product, a real set of services that were of value to farmers and others in in sort of the supply chain, as it were, all the way to the point where they could build a business that was of keen interest to one of the major players in agriculture. So that's a win that we're pretty proud of.
Awesome. How about on the other side of that? If you have anything that was not a win that's worth mentioning and what you learned from it, so that as the audience is listening, if it's another VC or another investor or an entrepreneur simply listening, what is something that you would not consider a win?
Yeah.
It happens, right? And then what did you learn from it, Tim?
Yeah, I've got plenty of those. They're not the most comfortable to talk about necessarily, but I'm going to give you two, just so that we double up on. I'm not afraid to talk about failure. So back in 1998, when I left the public accounting firm, I actually started my own little consulting gig before I went to work for the software company that I spoke about here just a few minutes ago. I was going to become a professional speaker along with a published book that I'd had. And I think my book was a bestseller for a day because my employer made me buy a bunch of or the publisher made me buy a bunch of copies of it. Over the next couple of years, I proceeded to pretty much fail at pretty much most everything. So my little consulting business that was going to become, sort of the launch pad for me to become a well-known professional speaker and so forth was pretty much a spectacular failure. And then a second one, when I got into the venture business, I met a team of young graduate students here at the University of Illinois that had a very, very novel technology. I'm not going to embarrass them, so I won't go into the specifics, but it was a team that was building some sensor technology for use in agriculture. I liked the passion of the team, but it was a very young team. It hadn't really been around the block in terms of entrepreneurship. And let's just say, after investing, several hundreds of thousands of dollars and bringing other investors to the table, this team ultimately quit on us when going got tough. There was like zero resilience when the invariable problems that startups have were encountered. They didn't stick around to fight through it. And so here's a couple of failures. What did I learn from it? The first is on the gig that I had I pursued back in 1998 and 99. I think what I learned from that is, don't be afraid to try something bold. It was a pretty radical direction after, being propped up by a big institution. I was a partner in an accounting firm, and had a lot of, infrastructure supporting me. And I wanted to, fly a bit, and I didn't exactly fly. It was sort of fly and thud. But nevertheless, I learned that it was okay to take a risk, and it cost me a bunch of money. It cost me time. But at the end of the day, I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about what not to do in an entrepreneurial enterprise, which has served me now, well, many, many years later. The second one, I think what we learned there is be careful with the teams that you invest in, and do your best to evaluate the resilience factor. Is this team going to be able to be resilient when, again, they hit the invariable potholes that startup companies hit? You're going to hit them. And so do you have a compelling enough vision and a compelling enough commitment to that vision to get back up on the horse and keep riding when you've been knocked on your ass? And that is, what we attempt to determine, before we write the check to the next team.
Wow, that was really powerful that you shared with us. That's like a book in the making. There's your next title, right? That's so
There
great.
you go.
I can agree with you more. I think I know a lot of like you. There's a lot of things I've learned what not to do. So from it comes from experience, because you can never read that. Speaking of books, you could read that in books what not to do, but there's a different type of the way it occurs for you when you experience it yourself, and it's your own money. Like
Yep.
I had an experience where I took a second on my house for for 6 figures, and to use that on a pay-per-click campaign, and it only netted me 9 new clients. It was like,
Wow.
where's your COA, right? So
Yeah.
because
Right.
I learned where one of our competitors was spending $500,000 a month on pay-per-click, and I said, hey, I'll take 10% or 15%, whatever of that, and I should be able to, if they're signing on 1,000 new deals, we should get a couple hundred at least. Nope, got less
Wow.
than 2 handfuls. I got 9 deals out of it. That was
Hmm.
a really valuable, painful lesson that I learned. So to your point, those things come with experience, and as long as you learn from them and not do them again, that's the key thing. So
Yep.
those are some valuable insights that you gave us, and all that. Um, can you share with us from your experience, if you could give the entrepreneur listening to this right now, and we're hitting our stride in this conversation, and you're giving us a lot of value. What is that? If you could give them, the listener, one piece of advice, if you could only give them one piece of advice, Tim, what would that be when it comes to being successful in your business?
Only one piece, Tony? Come on. How about two?
Sure, two's good.
Well, solve a meaningful problem. The world is full of challenges and problems. And the most compelling opportunities to us are when a person, an entrepreneur or a team coming together solves a really, really meaningful problem that is causing a fair amount of pain for a relatively meaningful constituency. All right. So that would be the first thing I'd say is, go for it and solve something meaningful. And then secondly, kind of, to the point I was making earlier, assess your level of both commitment, passion, and resiliency in pursuing the solution to that problem. And be self-aware enough, do I have a commitment to this vision? Do I have the resiliency, or will I have? And I think, as you gauge your self-awareness about those things, you're going to come stronger to solving, the problem that you're solving, and delivering really a compelling solution to the marketplace.
Beautiful. And now let's talk about a question that you think, so you're at the round table, or you're in your boardroom, and someone's pitching you, and you're going to invest in them, or you're considering, and then you hear their pitch, and then it's time for the Q&A, right? You say, hey, do you have any questions? And everyone has those common questions that they ask you as an investor, for
Right.
and then you kind of get a better understanding of who that person is and where their mind is at. Now, what is that one question that you wish people would ask you in that setting that they never ask?
So you're saying what question or the teams pitching us should ask?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think companies or entrepreneurs are sometimes afraid to ask, what ultimately can I do for them beyond the check, beyond the finances, right? Because the reality is that company should be interviewing me as much as I'm interviewing them. They shouldn't be afraid to engage, in a back and forth, and so. A couple companies will ask that question, but I'm surprised at how many will not press into, why is Tim Hoerr and Serra Ventures, why are we the best fit to come alongside and provide funding to their enterprise?
That's powerful. Thanks for sharing that. I've never heard that one before. That's really good, because naturally it's got to be a fit on both sides.
Yeah, no,
And
you're it's a marriage, so to speak, right? So
long term.
let's understand what is each party bringing to the table. It shouldn't be just a one-way street.
Absolutely. That was awesome. So let our listeners know how they could get a hold of you.
Yeah, the best is email Tim at serraventures.com. That's SERRA ventures.com. That's the easiest way to find me.
Perfect. So if they have any questions, they can reach out to you and all that good
Yep.
stuff. So
Yep.
And here we are at the end. If we could wrap it up with the one word close, Tim, just share with us what that one word is to sign off.
Grateful.
Grateful. I love it. Thank you very much, Tim. Looking forward
Thanks,
to having
Tony.
you here again sometime soon, and I can't wait to hear about your progress and other awesome wins that you've had. Thank you.
Awesome.